everybody, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, I suggest you watch at least some of the earlier videos in this series first. In the introduction video, I talk about what the goal of this series is and go through a quick explanation of character growth. And in parts 1 to 6, I look at different character traits that Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars series should have outgrown, and see what the writers really gave us. So please go check that out. To those of you who are all caught up, in this video we're going to be talking about the third important point needed for proper growth arcs, and seeing what we can learn from what the writers of TCW did and didn't do in their attempt at giving Ahsoka a positive character arc. So let's get into it. As I keep saying, the first 2 points to keep in mind for a proper growth arc are that we need to see the character's changed behavior, and it needs to be logical based on the experiences we have seen them go through. If you haven't already guessed from the title, the third important point is consequences. If your character doesn't suffer meaningful consequences, then not only are they a Mary Sue, they will have no incentive or even really see a need to change that behavior. As I spoke about in the video on impatience, growth arcs are not always cut and dried. Sometimes they're a bit messy. This struggle to change behavior can add realism and depth to a character arc, making it more interesting to watch or read. But if your character suffers no consequences whenever they falter or regress, then it is not logical for their behavior to change. It is not a proper growth arc. And in Ahsoka's case, we see over and over and over again, starting from her very first appearance in the Clone Wars, that there are no meaningful consequences for her behavior. Instead, the writers twist or ignore things to make her look good. Season 1, Episode 2, Rising Malevolence. After being disrespectful to the Council and wanting to disobey orders, Ahsoka is given a stern talking to. Immediately after, she is rewarded by getting what she wants: to go search the wreckage for Plo Koon, which of course ends up being the right thing to do, and then Anakin shifts all the praise to her at the end of the episode.
Thanks for getting us out of there in one piece, General Skywalker.
You have my Padawan to thank for that?
Season 1, Episode 9, Cloak of Darkness. Ahsoka disregards the Jedi Code and uses terror and threats against Newt Gunray.
Tell us what we want to know right now, or I will gut you like a Rokarian dirtfish.
Luminara reprimands her, but the writers reward her by having Gunray immediately offer to negotiate with them.
Terror is not a weapon the Jedi use.
Perhaps I was too hasty. Let us negotiate.
Later, she disobeys Luminara and abandons her post as guard over Gunray. But the writers have nerfed Luminara so that Ahsoka can arrive just in time to save her from Ventress. And even though her disobedience results in Gunray's escape and the death of several soldiers, she receives no consequences. Luminara instead apologizes to her and praises her.
I should have listened to your advice. I owe you my life, Ahsoka. Master Skywalker should be proud.
Season 1, Episode 19, Storm over Ryloth. Ahsoka's disobedience ends up getting thousands killed and nearly ruins their relief mission to Ryloth. The consequences? She's given a stern talking to, after which she is babied.
I understand what you're going through. It wasn't your fault. Take heart, little one. Losing her squadron was hard to take.
Give her time.
And rewarded with command of the fleet and the opportunity to assert herself.
And I'm leaving Commander Ahsoka in charge. She'll lead the second half of the mission when we engage what's remaining of the blockade.
No! We don't have any more time. Master Skywalker needs me now. I'll command the fighter squadron.
And the writers prop her up by having her influence, create, and flawlessly pull off a dubious plan to save the day.
You will need her help if you're going to get through this.
Actually, I got the idea from you.
The commander is right. I know this strategy is very bold, but these circumstances call for drastic measures.
Season 2, Episode 1, Holocron Heist. Ahsoka's disobedience on Felucia is punished by being put on guard duty in the temple archives. But lo and behold, her coincidental presence there enables her to become the hero of the episode. Because just like Luminara in Cloak of Darkness, Jocasta Nu, who took on a Grand Inquisitor and Darth Vader himself, is nerfed to the point of uselessness. And then of course Ahsoka's remaining punishment is immediately forgotten. Season 2, Episode 11, Lightsaber Lost. When interrogating a pair of men on the whereabouts of her lightsaber, Ahsoka tells them to do her a favor.
We were just doing our old friend Banamu a favor.
Well, I think it's time you forget about him and do me a favor.
One of them responds,
I hope you remember this and someday do me a favor.
Instead of being confronted by this debt later, it conveniently never comes up again. Later in the episode, Ahsoka terrorizes and harms Banamu right in front of Master Sunube. But other than once crying,
Ahsoka!
After which she continues her beatdown, he does nothing about her behavior. Season 3, Episode 6, The Academy. In addition to acting stuck up and being completely hypocritical, Ahsoka lies to the students about having a backup plan to find Satine. Lives are in danger. The whole planet may lose its freedom. But she decides to keep her only allies in the dark, cross her fingers, and fly by the seat of her pants. But of course, everything works out perfectly, and the episode ends with Satine ignoring the contributions of the students and only thanking Ahsoka. Season 3, Citadel Arc. Ahsoka tags along, against orders, on a vital and sensitive mission, completely ignorant of the plans because she wasn't included in them. When Anakin starts to scold her, she blatantly lies, claiming Plo Koon ordered her along. And Obi-Wan cheerfully invites her to join them. Logically, her actions would lead to the mission failing and everyone dying. But instead, the writers bend things to make Ahsoka an indispensable member of the team.
They're ventilation ducts, but they're far too small for us to gain access.
Too small for you, maybe. But I think I can squeeze through.
Perhaps she's right.
I need you to lead the group.
I guess it's a good thing I came along after all.
Whether you were meant to be on this mission or not, you are now the most important part of it.
And at the end of the episode, Plo Koon covers for her, enabling her to escape any consequences for her misbehavior.
Did you assign Ahsoka to the mission?
It appears I did.
Season 4, Episode 14, A Friend in Need. Ahsoka disrupts important peace negotiations by causing fighting between the Republic and Separatist factions, and then she leaves the Republic senators stranded by taking their ship. The consequences? Absolutely none. The writers have Ahsoka say, it's nothing. And Anakin just shrugs it off despite his wife being left in a potentially volatile situation. And despite Ahsoka treating Lux abominably throughout the episode, the writers frame her actions toward him as heroic, even romantic, and end the episode with him saying to her,
"We make a pretty good team, don't we?"
Season 5, Onderon Arc. At the beginning of the arc, Ahsoka lies to the rebels, telling them,
"We're here to help you take back your planet,"
when their purpose in coming is strictly to observe, advise, and train the rebels to defend themselves. But of course, no one calls her out for this, and her false promise conveniently doesn't raise any issues. Later, Ahsoka unnecessarily exposes her presence and thus the Republic's support behind the rebellion, and this directly results in the Separatists responding with decisively harsh action. But neither the Jedi nor the rebels hold Ahsoka responsible. It's completely ignored. Season 5 Finale Arc. Ahsoka incriminates herself by breaking out of jail, thus appearing to kill clones in the escape, running away to Crime Central, after Anakin has warned her that she's making herself look guilty, fighting local law enforcement, endangering civilians, openly working with a separatist war criminal and former Sith assassin, fighting clones, being found with the materials used to bomb the temple. And then she refuses to tell anyone what happened. Even Anakin only knows bits and pieces. All of which, by the way, is helping the true perpetrator avoid justice, since everyone's attention is on getting Ahsoka back into custody, since, in her own words,
"Running proves you had something to do with the bomb,"
and thus no proper investigation was launched. But this all ends up being framed as the right choice, because then Ahsoka wrongfully accuses Ventress, so Anakin tracks her down and interrogates her, and she gives him information which Ahsoka could have told him, which leads him to the true perpetrator, and Ahsoka is saved at the last minute. Throughout this, the Jedi Council is framed as corrupt and arrogant for following the evidence available to them, with Ahsoka being framed as their victim. When the Council apologizes by offering to welcome Ahsoka back as a Jedi Knight, she's framed as wise and mature for choosing to walk away from the Order instead, even though her reasons are purely self-centered.
Why are you doing this?
The Council didn't trust me.
I wonder why. Season 7, Martez's sister arc. Ahsoka intimidates, confuses, and lies to Trace, causing her to dump a spice shipment for the Pike crime syndicate. This directly results in the girls being held captive and tortured by the Pikes. Throughout this, Ahsoka blames everything on Rafa and treats her like scum.
We wouldn't be here if you hadn't taken the job with the Pikes. Fact. The Pikes turned spice into something that ruins lives. So those lives would be on you.
Says who?
That's just the way it is. You can't profit from other people's suffering. Or at least I won't let you.
When the sisters find out Ahsoka didn't tell them she's a former Jedi, they are disappointed, but they don't hold that or anything else against her. In fact, the writers end the arc with the sisters giving Ahsoka a glowing report, essentially telling her she's what the Jedi should be.
You might not think of yourself as a Jedi, but you act like one. Or at least how I want them to be.
Season 7, Mandalore arc. Ahsoka completely ignores the bigger picture and blatantly disrespects the Jedi through Obi-Wan.
You're going to abandon Bo-Katan and her people?
Ahsoka, surely you understand this is a pivotal moment in the Clone Wars. The heart of the Republic is under attack.
I understand that as usual you're playing politics. This is why the people have lost faith in the Jedi.
Right now, people on Coruscant need us.
No. The Chancellor needs you.
That's not fair.
I'm not trying to be.
And she is rewarded by being given the troops and resources that she wanted, as well as getting her newly refurbished lightsabers returned to her.
I'll divide the 501st. We'll promote Rex to commander and have him lead the new division. Ahsoka can go with him as an advisor.
Very well. You'll need these. They're good as new, maybe a little better.
Then she leads the clones to Mandalore, further ignoring red flags, and gets them all caught in the trap meant for Obi-Wan. But of course, she suffers no personal losses. Instead, Maul becomes obsessed with recruiting her, and it leads to his downfall and capture, further propping her up.
You succeeded where many have failed.
Speaking of Maul, she later frees this Sith crime lord into the ranks of the clones, explicitly ordering him to
go cause some chaos.
Her actions directly result in the death of every clone on board except Rex. But Ahsoka is framed as faultless.
They may be willing to die, but I am not the one who is going to kill them.
She sacrificed thousands of lives for her own survival. We saw it hinted at in Season 2, Weapons Factory, shown clearer in the Season 5 Younglings arc, and here is proved. She considers her own life more valuable than any number of others. And it shows that she thinks of the clones as little more than cannon fodder, like a certain someone else we know. And Rex, the guy who gave Krell a piece of his mind,
I followed your orders, even in the face of a plan that was, in my opinion, severely flawed. A plan that cost us men, not clones. Men!
Now suddenly doesn't seem to care when his men are purposely fed into a meat grinder.
Did you hear Maul also escaped?
He didn't escape. I let him out.
What? Why?
Diversion.
That's one word for it.
He shrugs it off, rather than holding her responsible for the deaths of his brothers. Instead of helping them defend against the terror she unleashed, he continues helping her escape.
We live and learn.
We live and learn? Well, others, yes. You, no. So, what have we seen here? Well, what I see is favoritism. The creators are doting on Ahsoka. They want to give the appearance of consequences, but they don't actually want her to suffer consequences. In Storm over Ryloth, a lot of people die, but no one who's truly important to Ahsoka. To my understanding, the few named clones in her squadron have their first and last appearance in that episode, and Ahsoka receives no punishment for her actions beyond a stern talking to. In Holocron Heist, after behaving exactly the same as she did in Storm over Ryloth, her punishment is no more severe, just a stern talking to, and she's put on guard duty in the Temple Archives, where the writers make her into a hero. Imagine if a kid burned down the local orphanage twice, and they were punished by being sent to their room. and their room has a TV and video games and an iPad, it's meaningless. A character must suffer consequences. That's what makes them meaningful. Of course, the intensity of that suffering should be in proportion to the situation. If they unfairly snap at their friend, then perhaps their friend just stops talking to them until they apologize. If they engage in risky behavior, perhaps they get a slight or severe injury, depending on how reckless they're being. If they are given the responsibility to lead an important military operation, and they cause the deaths of thousands of soldiers through willful ignorance, that's a court-martial. That's an end to their career, if not their life. If you don't want to end your character's career or life so soon, consider altering some of the finer details of the situation. If, instead of willfully ignoring the danger, Ahsoka had immediately turned around when ordered to, but the same outcome had occurred, it wouldn't be her fault. She would have tried her best, but failed. There would be no need for personal consequences because she did nothing wrong. And you could still have her be rattled by the experience and need to regain confidence. That's completely realistic. Perhaps in Cloak of Darkness, when she disobeys orders to help Luminara, she gets injured in the fight against Ventress. As thanks for the help, her punishment for abandoning her post is lessened, but that punishment, plus her injury, are the reasons why she must sit out an episode in the Temple Archives, where, rather than being involved in heroics, she learns to take things slowly under the guidance of a retired Jedi Master. See how easy it is to include meaningful consequences and still have an interesting story arc? Characters who are unaffected by anything do not make for better stories. They're just Mary Sues. Stephen King wrote, "Kill your darlings. Kill your darlings, even when it breaks your egocentric little scribbler's heart. Kill your darlings." The context behind that phrase is for a different application, but do consider it when giving your characters meaningful consequences. While death isn't always necessary, if you want your character to change their behavior in some regard, they must suffer consequences when they behave improperly. Alas, Ahsoka does not suffer consequences, and thus, as we have seen, there are many traits she does not outgrow. So, how come so many fans think she does? In the next installment of this case study, I'll be exposing some of the tricks the writers use to keep negative perception off Ahsoka and positive perception on her. So don't forget to subscribe, and if you liked this video, please leave it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments how you would rewrite some episodes to give Ahsoka meaningful consequences. Also, we have a Patreon, so if you want to help support our content creation, be sure to check that out. See you around!
Whatever, it's not important. Hi.
Let's go back to prehistoric times, when dinosaurs ruled the earth. I am okay. I'm not okay. I'm just thinking of Filoni. You're egocentric. Yay! Yay!